All right, let's get right into it. We all live our lives based on stories. The ones we're told about who we're supposed to be, what we're allowed to achieve, the path we're expected to follow. But what happens when those stories feel more like a cage than a guide? Today, we're talking about how to pick up the pen and start writing a brand new chapter for yourself.
So for generations, this was just the accepted script in Hollywood. An actress hits 40 and poof, the interesting, powerful, leading roles, they just dry up. And this wasn't just, a coincidence. It was a deeply ingrained narrative that basically put an expiration date on countless women's careers. A rule that for way too long went completely unchallenged.
And this is where things get interesting, because Reese Witherspoon looked at that unwritten rule, that pre-written ending, and she basically said, nope, not for me. She decided that the story Hollywood had written for her and for so many other women just wasn't the one she was going to star in.
So you see, it all came down to this one crucial choice. On one side, you have the old path. Just accept it. Let the industry decide your fate and fade away quietly. But on the other side was the path she took. The new one, which was, don't just fight for a seat at the table, go build a whole new table. Instead of waiting around for opportunities, she decided she was going to be the one creating them.
Now, this wasn't just some vague idea or wishful thinking. She channeled all of that frustration into real, concrete action. She started her own production company, which grew into the media powerhouse we now know as Hello Sunshine. And the goal? Well, it was simple, but it was also totally revolutionary. To tell the kinds of stories that Hollywood had been ignoring for decades.
And I mean, just look at the results. They speak for themselves, right? With huge hits like Gone Girl and Big Little Lies and The Morning Show, her company didn't just create a few more roles for women, it made complex, powerful, and often messy female characters the main event. She proved what many of us already knew. There was a massive, hungry audience for these stories. And in doing so, she fundamentally changed the game.
Okay, so here's what I think is so fascinating about this whole thing. How did she fuel this media empire? It wasn't just about reading scripts the old-fashioned way. The real foundation of her whole content strategy was something that, on the surface seems incredibly simple, almost personal. A book club.
But this wasn't just any old book club. No way. It was an absolutely brilliant four-step content engine. Let's just break down the genius of this for a second. First, she champions female authors, giving them this huge platform. In doing that, she builds incredible trust with her audience, who hang on her every recommendation. And then, here's the masterstroke. She uses that trust to secure the film rights, often before anyone else. It created this exclusive pipeline of stories that were already proven to connect with people. It's a perfect, self-feeding loop that turns good taste directly into blockbuster content.
So, Reese's story is an amazing example. But the real reason we're talking about it is that the principle behind it goes way beyond Hollywood. It's about recognizing the scripts we've all been handed in our own lives and realizing that we have the power to edit, to revise, or, if we need to just toss the whole thing out and start fresh.
And really, this is the core idea of our whole explainer today. Just because something has always been a certain way doesn't mean it's the only way or the right way. History gives us context, It's a roadmap, not a rule book. The real power is in questioning the norms and the beliefs that we've simply outgrown.
Think about some of these outdated scripts we all inherit. Things like a woman's value is tied to her youth, or that success means getting married and having kids, or that certain careers, certain paths in life are just not for people like us. These are just stories. They are not truths.
So, let's bring this home. Let's turn the camera away from Hollywood and point it right at our own lives. Because if we really want to author our own narrative, we have to start by asking ourselves some really important questions. This is where the real work begins.
First up, what is an old story that you're still carrying around, even though it just doesn't fit you anymore? Maybe it's a belief about your own intelligence you picked up as a kid, or a story about what you're supposed to want out of life. Take a second and think, what is it for you?
And building on that, let's get even more specific. Is there one single belief, maybe just one sentence you tell yourself that's holding you back, that limits what you think is possible? Just identifying it, just saying it out loud is the first, most powerful step toward changing it.
And finally, here's the last and maybe the most powerful question of all. If you weren't bound by any of those old scripts, what would you write instead? Let's forget about what's realistic for a minute. What does the story you truly want to live actually look and feel like?
Because that's really the ultimate takeaway here, isn't it? The stories we tell ourselves
literally shape our reality. And reclaiming the authorship of those stories, well, that isn't just an act of imagination. It is a profound act of power. The pen is in your hand. So, what are you going to write next?